Dude, what are you doing? Do you ever feel like your brain is trying to sabotage your body?
What?
Almost like your brain is trying to gaslight you.
Did you just say something about lighting gas?
You know, you're at the train station, but you missed the train back home. And your brain's suddenly like, dude, you suck at life. Might as well find the nearest public restroom and drown yourself in the toilet. I miss their trains all the time. And trust me, you do not want to go into their bathrooms to swim. The truth is, those sneaky brain gremlins that hijack your thoughts, aka cognitive distortions, love to mess with us, especially those of us with autistic brains. Cognitive distortions can get us autistics into a lot of trouble. Today, we're going to learn about 8 cognitive distortions, how to spot relevant patterns, name them, and find ways to gently nudge your brain back to a better spot. Before we dive into our list, you might be wondering why cognitive distortions are so common for autistic brains. Many autistic minds are amazing at spotting patterns and making connections, but sometimes our brains take shortcuts that aren't entirely fact-based. It's like our minds try to fill in the blanks too quickly, and instead of landing on something factual, we end up with these tricky thought spirals that are based on distortions of the situation. Also, cognitive distortions are commonly associated with anxiety. So not only autistic people struggle with them, but up to 84% of autistic people are diagnosed with anxiety, and they also have autistic brains that seek patterns and shortcuts. So cognitive distortions are especially common for autistics. And for high-masking adults, we probably never noticed we had these thought patterns, especially before realizing we were autistic. We just thought those were the facts and everyone thinks this way. But newsflash, they don't. The good news, once we notice them, we can start reworking our brains one thought at a time. So here are 8 common cognitive distortions you need to be aware of. Number 1, should and must statements.
If Ethan Hunt can do it, I should be able to do it.
These are the nagging little whispers of pressure.
I should be able to do this.
Or, I must get these things under control. This fixed way of thinking is similar to other cognitive distortions that we'll talk about in a second, but with this one, it can be hard, especially when the late diagnosed or undiagnosed autistic person is doing this with neurotypical expectations that might not be realistic for a neurodivergent brain. Thinking things like, everyone else can do this so easily, I should be able to do it too, doesn't help and isn't even necessarily true. That's like someone saying, you should be able to climb that mountain, to someone who just had major back surgery. No, not everyone should be able to do that, now or ever. Okay, I might do the should or must thing, but how do I know if I'm doing it? Anytime your brain uses should or must, hold on, narrator dude, I got this. Easy. You say things like, I should be able to do this, or I must be the best at everything, all the time. I don't say those all the time. Anyway, I should say those all the time if I want to get good at stuff. See what I mean? So what do? Dude, swap should for could, like this. You could say, I must finish this ham and cheese sandwich. Or you could say, I could finish this ham and cheese sandwich, but if I don't, I'll have the perfect breakfast tomorrow. You eat ham and cheese sandwiches for breakfast? Number 2, magnification of bad, minimization of good. Okay, you send a thorough, well-organized email update to your colleagues, telling them progress on a project. But then you notice one typo in the final report. Now, that's all you can see. And you're sure that's all everyone reading the email sees too. Okay, I'm pretty sure I do this all the time. But how do I know? For you, should be easy. I give you compliments all the time. And what do you say back to me? Whatever, dude, it sucked. You say that all the time. I don't say that. You say it all the time. No, I don't. You do. Think about it. Maybe you're right. So what do I do? For starters, instead of ignoring all the compliments I give you, try giving yourself a pat on the back. Okay. Also, when you make a mistake, nobody but you really cares. Like that time you put mustard on my corn dog instead of ketchup, I didn't really mind it. Actually, I kind of liked it. Added a little bit of pop to the flavor. Now, I can't imagine eating a corn dog without mustard. Want to go get a corn dog? You know, for an idiot, sometimes you're actually kind of brilliant. Wait, was that a compliment? How about that corn dog? That's this distortion in action. Zooming in on the bad and shrinking the good. Number 3, overgeneralization. You miss one bus and your brain immediately says,
I always mess this up. I can't handle this.
overgeneralization loves to take one bad moment and turn it into a lifelong pattern. Then your brain often jumps to another distortion that we'll talk about more later, catastrophizing.
I'm gonna lose my job. I'm gonna lose my house. I won't be able to afford food. Oh, this is the worst state ever.
All right, so how do I know when I'm doing that? When you hear yourself say always or never, be like a cat and pay attention. A cat or a hamster? A hamster or a Siberian turkey? Yeah, you just made that up. I might have. Okay, so I'm in hamster or turkey mode. Now what? Once you transformed into a hamster, you can attack the thought like this. Pretend I just missed the bus. Okay. There goes the bus, and I'm not on it, but that's okay because I caught it yesterday and the day before, and I'll just wait for the next one. No, you didn't. You missed it the day before yesterday. Are you sure about that? You messaged me and I picked you up. Yeah, I might have missed the bus the day before yesterday, but I catch it a lot more than I miss it. Oh, see what I just did there? Did that happen because you were in hamster mode? Siberian turkey. Number 4, emotional reasoning. This one is tricky. You feel anxious, so your brain decides there must be a reason to be anxious. Emotional reasoning is when you assume your feelings equal facts. Remember, emotional reasoning doesn't mean it's actually true. I'm always anxious. This one seems impossible. Nothing's impossible. Okay, remember that time we were driving to the airport to fly to London? You were like, dude, I don't feel very good. I don't think this is a very good idea. But dude, it was a good idea. If we'd never have flown to London, we'd never would have found that awesome candy store, which means we never would have went back to our hotel room with 30 pounds of gummy corn dogs, especially if you're autistic and might battle lots of anxiety in your life. Those fight or flight feelings that get triggered are due to your anxiety, but not necessarily a real threat. You got sick from eating too many gummy corn dogs. Yeah, but they still were freaking delicious. They were delicious, and I do love London. Okay, so how do I outsmart this? Feeling, situation. You feel anxious about flying to London, but that doesn't mean it'll suck. Ground yourself with facts, like feedback you've received in the past, times when things went fine in similar situations, or actual evidence in front of you. Number 5, mind reading. You wave at a coworker, and they don't wave back. Your brain decides,
Oh, geez. They must be mad at me.
that's funny, that actually happened to me. So what do? If you're cruising along and your brain starts thinking something really bad, like, I suck. They probably think I smell like a giant sour turkey. That's mind reading. That doesn't even make sense. Nobody ever smells like a sour turkey. Exactly. That's why you don't need to mind read. Okay, so what do? Get curious. Don't assume, just ask. What if I can't ask? Because your mouth is full of gummy corn dogs? Mind reading is when you assume you know what others are thinking. And spoiler, it's almost always negative. Number 6, catastrophizing. Ooh, the drama queen of cognitive distortions. Forget turning molehills into mountains. Catastrophizing builds entire mountain ranges. Spill coffee on your shirt?
Everyone's gonna notice, and I'm gonna look ridiculous and dirty all day.
This one probably pops up all the time. So how do I spot it? Do you smell that? No? No, I don't. Smells like corn dog. Narrator dude, can you handle this one? Sure, I'll take over from here. Thanks, dude. Be right back.
If your thoughts escalate quickly to the worst case scenario, that's catastrophizing. And oh boy, with our brain wiring and pattern seeking, this is really common for many autistic people. And it can be pretty surprising to realize that, wow, this actually isn't how everyone else thinks all the time. So what do I do? Flip the worst case into the best case, and then think of the most likely outcomes. For example, worst, people will judge me. Best, nobody notices. Most realistic, someone might notice, but won't care. Most of the time, the realistic outcome is way less terrifying. Number 7, personalization. This distortion constantly whispers to you, that thing that happened, it's your fault. If something goes wrong, whether it's a group project flopping or bad weather ruining an event, you might automatically think you're to blame. Even if you logically know you can't control the weather, you spin it in a way that makes you think you are the one to do it. If your first reaction is to take on all of the blame, even for things beyond your control, you're personalizing. I think I do this a lot. How do I spot it? I'm all over this one, narrator dude. Let's say you run out of corn dogs. Maybe you ate a few extra, maybe not, but they're gone. It's not a good situation when you run out of corn dogs. But it's not your fault. I think that made sense, but I'm not entirely sure. Don't worry, dude. It was an advanced corn dog example. It'll probably take a while to settle in. Narrator dude. Okay, imagine you have a table of corn dogs. Without the corn dog examples, sorry. Flip the perspective and pretend you're talking to a friend. Imagine the same situation happened and a friend told you this story. Would you blame them? Probably not. So remind yourself of the same thing and practice being a friend to you. Because think about it this way, you'll always be around yourself. So just practice being kind to yourself. Number 8, black or white thinking. Whew, and here's the heavy hitter. Probably the most common distortion for many autistic brains and one I struggle with often. Black or white thinking is all or nothing thinking. I either nailed this or I completely failed. It loves absolutes like always, never, best, and worst. And I do this one all the time. But now after learning I'm autistic, I've started to catch myself when I think this way or talk this way. And I can understand it's my brain playing some pretty nasty tricks on me. I'm loving this narrator, dude. Tell us how to spot it. It pops up in so many spots. When you're thinking,
It better be just right or it's not worth doing it at all.
that's one example. So a lot of perfectionist tendencies might be rooted in this kind of thinking. I got one that Chris does all the time. This is the worst day ever. When it's only like 9 a.m. and one tiny problem happened. The coffee machine wouldn't work. Who in their right mind can have a good day without coffee in the morning? Ham and cheese sandwich? I'm good to go. Or a corn dog? Fine. So what do I do instead? Do you want to handle this one, narrator dude? Or you want me to handle it? Dude, knock yourself out. Awesome. When you start spouting off all this mumbo jumbo, oh, this is the worst day. This is such a terrible day. Blah, blah, blah. Ask yourself, is that really true? What if it is gonna suck? Maybe it started off sucky, but it could get better. How do you know? You could win a free corn dog. That's a tough one to argue against. Another way to do this is try using the opposite with the word but. Instead of I'm terrible at socializing, try I struggled in that conversation, but I've had good ones before. Life is very rarely all good or all bad. It's both at the same time. We nailed it. You guys up for some grilled cheese sandwiches? I'm down. Let's go eat.